Featherstone first. Tony Pastoral puts in his apologies, he's got the flu. Okay, let's get started. I've got a list here of 8 things, which starts with fluid, when to take off, use of tape, CFG, thermals, smooth with the control stick, flying, and the Vario. So I'm going to start off with fluids. When do you think you should start drinking from your drinking bottle? It's a basic, simple thing. You got an idea?
Have a guess now.
Because we're presuming we've got a nice thermal day and there's going to be 4, maybe 5 knot thermals, right? So it's that sort of a day. We're expecting temperature to 23 or 24, 25 maybe. When do you start drinking from your drink bottle?
I'll guess an hour beforehand. I've no idea.
Yeah. The trick is you're dehydrating the moment you step out of your house. You're walking, you're lifting the wings, you're pushing the glider out, you're dehydrating already. Don't do nothing. If you do nothing, you get to the glider and you hop in and, Jesus, I'm hot. I better have a drink. It's too late. You've started too late. So for thermal flying, you want to be relaxed, calm, hydrated, and having had a pee, if you need one, right? Do it discreetly, but you have to look after these things. So you have to drink. You have to keep drinking. If you don't drink, we're going to see a lousy circuit at the end. We're going to see some erratic flying in the thermals, which is contrary to staying up. I use a bit of electrolyte stuff. I use Pure, and I put 2 scoops in my drink bottle. It's a Derek Clark's son and daughter product, and at the end of the day you haven't got a headache. It's hydration stuff. But there are others, okay? It's not a problem if you use something else. Now, we're ready to go. We've got the glider from here, down there. When should you take off having got your glider down there? Like, oh, the sky's cooking, put it straight on the grid and go? Or should you eat your lunch first? Or go off and do something else? Got an idea? Got a thought on some of that?
I prefer to take off early.
You prefer to take off earlier. My question is, when do you take off having got your glider from here down there?
Are you ready?
What?
That's half an answer. My thing is, get the glider down there. Whether you put it on the grid or not is a different thing. But sit down for 5 minutes. Collect your thoughts. Get to a stage of being calm and quiet. Yeah? If you just take your glider down there, rush. Oh, get out of the road, I want to get through here, and all that, and heave, push the glider, can you give me a hand? And then hop in the glider, again, you've got to sweat up and you're not relaxed. Right? So give yourself 5, maybe 10 minutes at worst, of just, if there's 5 in front of you, well, there's going to be 10 minutes, isn't there?
Yeah, even more.
So you could put it straight on the grid. The next question related to that is, if people have gone off who are above your stature in gliding, that tells you something. That tells you something. If you then, oh, I'll wait, and we've got a couple of members in this club, I'll wait, oh, it's not looking so good yet. Well, why have they gone off? It doesn't have to be 100% yet. It has to be you can stay up. And now you can see the day evolving and coming on stream for you. Yeah? Oh, the cloud base is only 3,000 feet. You know, you've worked away and you've got to 3,000 feet. Well, that cloud's got a higher base over there. And then over there and look back and, oh, that's even higher now again. You can see the day evolving for you.
And maybe you're already in the air at the peak of the day.
You've got to be in the air to use the day.
Yeah.
If you take off when it's at the peak, you've already lost the first quarter.
Yeah.
Yeah? Not to say that it was 100% that first quarter,
Still.
but
Yeah.
you've only then got 3 quarters left to use. When you're trying to thermal a glider, the worst thing you have is flapping tape. Now it might apply to the club gliders. I clean and put new tape on every day. If I'm here in a contest for 5 days, I'll go 3, but then I'm starting to get a bit iffy about my tape. I clean it first with a solvent which is quite oily, and then I clean it with meths. Now cleaning it is not, that's not cleaning it. That's getting the sticky stuff off. Meths, the last thing you do is the meths. If you do this, you're just pushing the grease and the stuff back and forwards and it's still there. So, clean bit of cloth with more mess. Pause for 10 minutes or 5 minutes, let the stuff evaporate, and then put your tape on. Put your tape on, don't go,
Don't pull it too hard, right? Don't
and put
stretch
it on like that,
Yeah.
pull it out, and just lay it on. Because it will shrink during the day, it will shrink when you go high. So the club gliders, yeah, we need to clean some of the tape off and tape them a little bit more regular than we do sometimes. Okay?
And maybe not use double-sided tape, whoever did that last time.
Yeah.
Please.
They did it. They put double-sided tape on.
We've done it twice.
Right, now we're getting into the CFG position. Where can the CFG be? Why do we have a CFG?
Well, what does it mean, CFG first?
Centre of gravity.
Thank you. Just for the record.
So, they vary in length. What's it, 280 on the DG 1000, I think, is the distance.
From
The distance for the CFG that you're allowed. But why do you have a CFG? You know? No? What?
So the weight forward of a certain point has to balance the weight up of a certain point, and that certain point needs to be within a certain range of where the lift is generated.
Yeah. What it's all about, and I got another explanation which is similar, is you've got to be able to fly the glider under all circumstances and get it out of whatever position or attitude it's in and have full control of it.
a model might help
What?
to explain that. There's a model in the back if you need a model or not.
Yeah. So most gliders have a CFG, and we'll just use that arbitrarily as the value, as the dimension. So here's forward, and here's aft. And if you talk about the CFG position, anywhere in there, the glider can be flowing well. Can be flowing. Can it be flown better in any position? Yes. Martin tells me that he has it here, about 20% forward of the aft, because there are variances in people's idea of how heavy they are, and we've got to be flying in the safe region. If they're too light, this starts going backwards, and then they fall outside there. For thermal flying, having it there, and we want to do the thermal at 50 knots, and we have it there, if I can draw an elevator, at 50 knots, is it there? Is it slightly there? The further forward you have this from here, the more this is going up that way.
Yeah, so the more the center of gravity is to the back, the slower the glider can fly within obviously the limits, otherwise
Yes.
it gets dangerous, right?
So
Yeah.
if you want a thermal at 50 knots, if that's what you're going to do today, you don't want to have the elevator up here, because that's drag.
Oh, that too, yeah.
Yeah? It's important to get the CFG where you want it. There is a sweet spot for every glider, and generally for thermaling and good, it's about there, it's about 10%. But it varies a bit with some of the gliders, with the forward sweep and the back sweep, and it goes, it's something you've got to find. There's no embarrassment to go to your aircraft engineer and say, right, I want to sit in the glider, can you weigh me? Can you get me there?
We should get it going.
Can you get me there? And then you have to learn how and where to put the weights to get it there. That's the optimum in a general sense, just in general. I fly with it there. The moment I let somebody else fly the glider, my head goes all over the place. It's only happened twice, but oh, what weight are they? Where have I got the batteries? Where have I got the water? Where are things? So I can put it in the right place. It's very easy to say to somebody, oh, you can fly the glider, and they're lighter than you, and it's too far aft. That's
Especially
a real
with that
real
little limit, right?
Yeah, you go out here.
Yeah. And the little
And that's a
margin.
worry. That's a worry. It matters little if it creeps slightly forward.
What happens if it's too far aft?
Too far aft,
Yeah.
it's worse than sitting on top of a ping pong ball and trying to keep it balanced.
Yeah.
It's terrible if you have a belly hook, which is below centre of gravity, and the tow plane takes off, and you get to about 62 or 63, and you haven't got enough forward stick to get flying properly. And they've had it in America, where people have had it too far aft, and they've gone that way.
In a winch launch it would be even
No,
worse.
they're a tow, because they suddenly open up the throttle and
All right.
yeah. So that's the worst scenario. The other one is if you are thermaling and you go into a spin, you cannot get it, well,
If it's too
might
far aft.
not come out,
Yeah.
is the right word. If you're right on here or aft of here, it might not come out.
It hasn't been tested, right? For that
Oh,
far
well,
aft.
yes, the factories I'm sure do. They'll try everything,
Right.
even to the extent of landing on water with the glider. I've seen the wing, the factory, the wing, bent at right angles.
Oh,
So if you think the glider will break up because you're in rough conditions, you're going to give away before the glider does. There's the DG400 one, isn't it, where the spar is bolted and the wing is up at right angles.
it's been interesting to see.
Yeah. Okay, so to get it there, I've had myself weighed in the glider, not on the standing on the scale, no, sitting in the glider, because we all sit with a cushion forward or backward, a little, and that moves the position of your C of G, of you. If Regan hops in the glider, he's got all those cushions behind him. Effectively, he's heavier because he's moving further forward. Yeah? It moves him forward to get the C of G in a better place.
Heavier than he usually is, you mean?
And
Yes.
so in my case, my glider, I have 2.6 kilo battery in the tail. So that's another 7 ampere hours I can use. But that's because of that. That means when it's empty, the glider is at this 10% forward position. Empty. Right? When I put water in,
Ah, that's
it
what
goes
you mean.
forward 50 millimetres. Goes forward. I think my range is about 120 mil here. So going forward 50 mil puts you right up here. That's a hell of a long way. That means you've got to fly with a stick to get it at 50. Yeah. So then put water in the tail, up to 4.3 litres can go in the tail to bring it back. Bring it back to there. Now it's not illegal to put the weights in the correct place in the glider and have it in any of the C of G area. Your engineer will say, oh no, it's a club glider. No, it's only for you. For you, where your C of G should be. Okay? Now we're going to talk about thermal. So we've got the elevator in the right place, and we're thermaling today in my thermal over here, 50 knots. There's the cloud, there's the ground, 3,000 feet, 4 knots, will be some lift here, and we've got 4 knots of wind. Now when we talk about a thermal with 4 knots, we're not talking about a burst of 4 knots, we're talking when you've been thermaling for quite some time and the averager is saying 4 knots. Quite a different value. So it settles down at 4 knots. So we all think that that's what happens. There's the thermal, gonna get in there, gonna be good. But it's 4 knots of wind, and it's going to be, we know, my hypothetical example is that it is 4 knots of lift after it settles down a little bit, and I've got it nicely on the centre. Is that, do I aim to hit under here, directly under the cloud here, at 1,000 feet? Do I aim there? Come on, Bruno, you've got an answer.
I'm letting other people take this one.
You got a wooden, you got a thought on that? Is that where you're aiming for?
Well, I'm kind of aiming for cloud base.
Yeah, but you come trundling along here at 1,000 feet and you can see that cloud there, and you're coming towards it. Are you aiming to get under here?
Well, at the end, you're aiming to centre the thermal in the biggest part of the lift, but you probably turn before you get into it, so you don't turn
Yeah, so I come trundling along here, and you're thinking, and most would say you've got to join it there. Remember, that's 4 knots. There's the true line of where the energy is.
What's that arrow?
There's the
Oh, 4
45
knots.
degrees.
Oh, I see. So you have both 4 knots, the thermal, and 4 knots of horizontal
Well,
wind.
Effectively, this doesn't exist here. Yeah? Now, if the sun is shining here, you know, the sun, it might be a bit further forward, but that's not critical for the moment being. What I'm trying to get through is that this is a 45-degree angle. You hit it here, right out almost in front of the cloud. if you come from here, you seem to go for eternity under that cloud to get to that point.
With just 4 knots of wind, which is not that much, right?
It is not much.
And if it was more windy,
It,
the angle would be
profile
even...
might not be exactly like that. It
Even
might be more a thing that goes a bit more like that.
Still.
To be real, you know, as the strength of the thermal gets going. So if I just accept this 45-degree line, and we get up here, and here's my turn point that I'm going to go to. So I set off. Yep, and I get the turn point. Now I know I'm going back that way. That thermal was there. This is why this angle thing is important. Because I'm not going to get back here at this altitude, am I? I'm going to get back at this altitude. Yeah, my return leg. You aiming, if you've marked the thermal, it's there on the GPS. But it's before you get to it, because there's an angle. Yeah? So that, sure.
When you have wind and thermals, do you find that the thermal will always finish at the centre of the cloud, if it's a single cloud thermal? Does that make sense?
No, I think it's more near the sun side.
I was just, you just drew to the centre every time, so
Oh,
I just wondered.
Hypothetical
Right, yeah.
scenario, yeah.
But the cloud doesn't kind of grow around that centre, it kind of doesn't really matter where the
It
cloud
depends, if the wind is stronger up top here, it can actually billow and go in a funny shape, can't it? Too. And when you come from here, to get in that thermal, and you just seem to keep going, and you say, Christ, excuse my language, you're well out in front of this. This shouldn't be working out here, but in fact it is, because you see, there's the line of the front edge of the cloud. Yeah, it's not always round. I'm talking about a hypothetical thermal which is round, or near it, again to be round. Yeah.
Yeah, you can have also different wind at different altitudes, so you could have wind shear, the thermal
Yeah,
could
that can happen too.
displace. Yeah.
Ah. 0 to 1,000 to, what number did I have? To 1,000. Now some people don't take offence by this, but that's a teenage and human teenager type thermal.
Small and agitated. Chronic tantrums.
A little bit rough looking polish.
So when it's thermal, when you're down here at 1,000 feet, you've got your paddock sorted. You think, right, that's my paddock. Oh, I've got the thermal here. Oh, right, it's good. Yes, it's into wind, slightly uphill, good. Perfect. Right, now I'll play with this thermal. At that 1,000 feet, it's like a teenager. You know, all spit and spurt, and it takes a while to get settled down. As you get higher to 1,500 feet, it starts to look a little bit all right. It's like it's a 45-year-old, stable, steady, and it's going to be a good thing for you. As you get here, the lift is going to drop off because the cloud base is at 6,500 feet, and the old buggers, because we've got to do this leg here to there and back to there, they use the top 500 feet. The young fellas, they'll set off about here at 5'8", because they think they can get here and back to there. So the strength of the thermal initially is a burst, stabilises down after a little while, it's then regular, Here it starts to fall a little, and that last 500 feet's a bit weak, but there's still lift there.
Are you suggesting to leave the thermal before cloud base?
No, I'm suggesting that it depends what you're trying to do after having left the thermal. You have to think about that. Yeah? If you're trying to climb in a thermal here and get in the wave, you might want that 500 feet because your push over there may just save you, get you into it. It's a rough, crude analogy of what a thermal does for you. Tony Passmore's comments last night when I had him on the phone was, for God's sake, just go flying. Get flying. Don't sit on the ground. We have a few too many people who are rigging their gliders over here and then stand yakking for an hour. Get down to the field. Use that 10 minutes, do that yak, sit down, quietly take it all in. Flying a thermal, I'll put the 4-knot thing up here again. In the vario. So you come into this thermal and there's the core of it, whatever height you're at. As you come in, you do your first turn and it's either that one or you hit it straight on, you're just lucky you've got it right. If you're a person who flies by the vario and not the seat of your pants, it'll take you a while to get to that centre. You'll get there eventually. When you start turning here, you say, oh, yeah, 2 knots. Oh, 4 knots, lovely. 2 knots, 2 knots. 4 knots. When I draw this fellow again, and we're here at 1,000 feet, if you're getting here, 4 knots here, and 2 knots here, or 0, and you're here at 1,000 feet, should you do anything? Can you do anything to do better?
Sorry, what's that chart on the right?
Okay, I've come into the thermal at 1,000 feet,
Yeah.
and the top of it and the cloud is back up here again,
Yeah.
right? So I've come into it, and I've not quite on the centre.
Yeah.
Should I be trying to get onto the centre when I'm here at 1,000 feet? I got my paddock here, right?
What's the wind direction on the left drawing?
Where's the wind direction? Oh, the relationship between these is just a theoretical position, not related to the wind. There's a paddock is just here underneath me, more or less. Should I try to get on the centre? Over here?
What's your average at the moment? Are
Well,
you climbing?
what is your average? You got an average? Kieran will tell me the average. When I hit 4 here and 0 here. 2 knots.
That's not too bad.
Right? When you're 1,000 feet and you try to get on the centre, you'll be in that paddock. 9 times out of 10. You will end up in that paddock because you will move to the centre, but the wrong centre. If you're doing 4 knots and 0, 4 knots and 0 as you come around, stick with it. When you get to my 1,500 feet, now try. You've now got a bit of a 500 foot margin now to get this thing going 4 knots everywhere. Quite a few people immediately want to straighten up and want to get into that thermal better. Now if you're confident and you're prepared to accept that you might land in that paddock, give it a go, but I think 9 times out of 10 you'll end up in that paddock.
Why would you?
Why?
Just explain.
Okay, here we go. So I come here and I hit here the 4 knot part, so I straighten up, yeah? And I end up there next time, and next time I end up here, and next time I end up here.
Seems like
You're still just touching the thermal, because if we take the thermal and as you, if I do the offset one, you come here, what do you read coming here? Well, I suspect it's still reading 0 when you get there. It's reading 2 up about there. It reads 4 there, and it reads 4 at the edge, and then it's slowly going back down again. What this is, there is a lag in the vario, if you're a vario flyer, before, as you do this first turn around, there's probably, I don't know, Rodney will tell us, is that it's not 20 seconds, but there's a lag.
It depends on the
It
value.
happens, it's telling you something after it's happened.
Yeah, but you want it like that.
But if you know that, and you've done 3 turns and you've got the same result, you're now higher. You'll anticipate here, and you'll get it. You'll anticipate when it goes, just starts lifting off the 0, you'll start to anticipate here, and then you'll get back onto that centre.
So you're saying the thermals, especially when you're low, they're narrow and they're hard to center, so better not to waste too much energy on trying to center them.
Because
As long as
every
you have
time you go like this, that's drag.
yeah, as long as you have an acceptable average. As long
Yeah.
as you're climbing, keep climbing. Yeah, makes
Yeah.
sense, man.
Every time you move the controls, that's drag.
Yeah, yeah. Also, you might getting away from it instead of close.
What's likely to be happening too is when you go round and you're off centre, is the speed might go up or down. So
Yeah.
you go a little bit like this, and then you go a little bit like
Yeah.
yeah.
What do? Do you try to center them when you're low?
Eventually you do centre,
Yeah.
but you've got to do some number of turns and get out of the red area, as we call it, as I call it. When you're at 1,000 feet, that's starting to get red. That's starting to get careful. You know, you'll be on the ground soon if you don't do something here nicely. And so you spend half an hour with the thermals. So what? You're at 1,000 feet, and you've got yourself back up to 1,500. And now you're sitting sweet. Because from 1,500 feet, at 10k per 1,000 feet, you can go a fair way.
Yeah.
To a better paddock, back to the airfield, off to another thermal, off to another glider that's thermaling. If a glider's going round and round and round, yeah? If a glider's going round and round here, you come trundling along, and you think that that cloud over there is pretty good, you don't go in a straight line, because that's lift, that's sink. That's sink, that's sink, that's lift, yeah? If you go like that, you might say, oh, geez, I'm going to stay with you, mate. You're pretty good too. And that gives you an extra stepping stone to get to that one. Whereas if you go in a straight line, you're back here at my 1,000-foot problem again. So, being calm, thinking about what you're going to fly, what you're expecting, hydrated, not too much stirring of the stick, C of G in the right place, it's a good start. Okay?
Why is there a delay in the variable?
Bottle, take the old bottle pipe,
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
meter, air flows when you, if you put your fingers on the end of the tube and lift it up, something's got to come out.
Yeah.
That coming out goes through past 2 thyristors, one on one side and one on the other side, and it cools that down because there's air flowing, and then the meter says the difference between the two, and the vario reads up. So there's a momentary lag there. Electronics are getting better, aren't they? They are getting better, and you can. But if you make that time interval so short, all you'll see all day is this.
But also, I think it's a good thing for the value to wait before it starts beeping, because you can, so the difference in acceleration, you can feel it,
Yeah, fly by your bum.
but only the difference in acceleration. Then if it keeps going strong, you won't feel it anymore.
Yes, correct.
You need the value to tell you, so that's where you get the value from the value. It's telling you you're still in lift, and especially if the acceleration is slow, right? It's slowly getting better or slowly getting worse. You won't
You can't feel it. No,
right?
correct.
That's where you get the value of the variant from.
When you're flying with the seat of your pants, as you enter, you are in a sinking mode, and when you hit it, you are in a rising mode.
Yeah, but then after
But
that,
then after that, the difference in the mode change
yeah,
is quite small. Unless you're doing the 4 knots, 0, 4 knots. Yeah.
in that case you feel it every time. Yeah.
So, doing this thermaling, I talk about 50 knots, yeah? So we're in the South Island, or we're over here in the hills, and we're below the hilltop, and we've got a thermal. It's coming up the gully, or off the riverbed. There is a small thing that you must watch out for, and that is your horizon is up here for part of the turn. The next part of the turn, it's down here. If you go and follow that, you're going to stall in speed. Something's going to happen. It's not good.
That's why you've got to be in the habit of always trimming.
You know,
It helps them.
you do have to have things stable and steady when you're doing that. If you're in a gully and thermaling up against the side of the hill, you will drift. You have to take that into account, plus your horizon is going here and there. And when you're thermaling in that gully, that may be 4 and 0, 4 and 0. But don't go chasing the speed. Keep it steady, keep it calm, and watch your drift to the hill.
Maybe put a bit more speed on it.
Absolutely, because close speed to the ground is the formula. There's a set thing. So whether the hill side is, if this was the hill face, and the thermal is coming up here, and you can just do a turn in here, your elevation above the ground is actually that. It's not that. Yeah? It's that. So you can be within 150 feet of the hilltop, or the side of the hill. And there are gusts that go up the hill and then go sideways, and then one gust comes from this side because you're behind the spur, and something comes over and then it joins that thermal. All sorts happen. So you have to have a little bit of speed. So you will be 55 knots minimum.
And your ASI might not be steady at 55, it'll be bouncing up
Yeah.
and down depending on
Yeah, but if you go
the thing.
chasing it too much and looking at the horizon and saying, oh, this is, you know, you just have to be calm about it. But it'll get you up off the bottom. Those that are flowing in the hills here, in the mountains. Any more questions? Because now I'm going to hand you to Kevin.
Good, because I have to replace the battery. So please.